Your eyes do not deceive you. For those of you who are watching this is indeed going to be some type of draft league content. For those of you who may have been missing that on the channel, but don't worry, once the Crown Tundra DLC drops, there is hopefully going to be a continuation of awesome draft league content, and there's actually a separate video I want to upload before I get into the actual league or potential leagues that I will be doing once those get started around very early November, near the end of December, just because the DLC is dropping in a few days, this Thursday on the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken, which is really crazy. I'm excited, so I'm hoping you guys will be as well for the draft league content and the showdown content that I'm very excited to bring y'all. But yeah, boss of YouTube, how's it going, everybody? Have for y'all today my run in the BBL Speed Tour that was run by my friend Liv. Very awesome person. Definitely check her out. Her channel link and stuff will be down below in the description. So long story short, what a speed tour is that the way that BBL did it is that there was, as you can see here, there was 12 coaches. You could sign up in between like 2 or 3 hours if I'm mistaken, and then by the end of that final hour, all the coaches that had signed up would be able to participate in a quick draft. Everybody had 1 minute to draft a Pokemon, so you had to get a Pokemon out of, I believe it was a 90 point cap or a 100 point cap, if I'm not mistaken. It was either 90 or 100. I don't remember right off the top of my head, but yeah, these are the people that were in the speed tour for this speed tournament that I did sign up for. Also, I'll leave a link to the BBL Discord. I think there's going to be a new one, but I'll leave the old one and the new one down in the description for you guys to go ahead and join if you're interested in maybe future speed tours. But yeah, everybody had only 1 minute per pick to draft an 8-mon team, and let me tell you, that was very hectic. It's been so long, at least like I want to say almost like a year and a half or 2 years since I'd done a speed tour, and I was like, hey, why not? I have free time on the Friday that this was happening. I had nothing else going on besides just like watching my kids, which don't worry, I did do. So yeah, but I was like, yeah, let me join this for fun. And as you can see, this is the squad that we had: Arceus, Dark, Slowbro, Tornadus, Therian, Megalop, Copperajah, Tangela, Runerigus, and Comfy. Unfortunately, I only got one Uber, and the max cap that an Uber was 26 points. And even though Darkius was 25 points, I could have got a second Uber, but realistically, I didn't feel like I really needed one, just because Megalop plus a Tornadus Therian together are really good in general. And then Darkius is an absolutely disgusting Arceus type in Uber, so I figured I was really comfy with this, even though I don't have a Toxic Spike Absorber. As you can see from here, we're only facing Nidoking or Drapion potentially, and the way that this worked is that it was either 4 or 3 rounds. 4 people got buys because originally it was an 8 cap, and then 4 people more joined, so it was a 12 cap. So 4 people got a buy. I was able to get a buy for the first round, which is really lucky, and then round 2 I ended up facing Liv herself. So with that being said, let's jump into that matchup real quickly here. But before we do, as you can see Arceus Dark here on the screen, let's make sure to Judgement that YouTube algorithm. Let me know your favorite legendary or Uber Pokemon in the comment section below. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, which really does support the channel, and if you are excited for this video, it would be greatly appreciated. So yeah, thank you everybody, and with that being said, let's take a look at our first matchup here. We are facing Liv, which I'm not gonna lie, this was probably the one matchup I was really hoping not to go up against. Like, yeah, I could have faced a team that had Nidoking or Drapion with T-Spikes, but that necessarily wouldn't have been that big of an issue. Unfortunately though, Liv's team is disgustingly terrifying because it pretty much nullifies the speed that I have in the form of Tornadus and Megalopony, because she has Coco, which outspeeds my Tornadus, and speed ties with my Arceus Dark, which can be smacked by Dazzling Gleam. And even though It is not faster than Megalop. I don't have access to return anymore, which is very unfortunate. And then above that, she has Alolan Raichu, which I 100% expect to come to this game, because that in terrain, once my Runerigus is gone, is going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. Ho is also going to be very, very annoying to face depending on what set she wants to bring. And then Mega Mawa basically comes in, murders my Slowbro, my Caparaja, my Runerigus, my Tangela, and my Comfey. So yeah, those were the biggest issues. The funny thing too is that Zygarde, I just completely was like, oh, well, I mean, I can deal with Zygarde, right? Because like everything else was basically a giant threat. Zarude also seems a little bit annoying depending on what set she could bring on it. I fully do not expect it to bring Rampardos or Marshtomp in this matchup. So as you can see here, first of all, we do have Arceus Dark. Yes, again, as I mentioned, she does have Tapu Koko, which speed ties with me, and she does have Mega Mawile that can absolutely obliterate me. But that's where Substitute comes in very, very handy on my Arceus Dark, because behind a sub, I don't have to really worry about a speed tie against Tapu Koko, because I can hit that with an Earth Power. If it does outspeed me, or if I do outspeed it, I can potentially 2-hit KO it and then go from there, or just knock it out. And then if I'm behind a sub, that's absolutely phenomenal. Plus, with Substitute, I don't have to worry about not being able to one-shot the Mega Mawile, because my sub will take the hit and then in return take super effective damage from the Earth Power. Then Judgement basically does everything else. Alright, so I'm not gonna lie to y'all. For some reason, I thought that Arceus Dark had the same speed as Tapu Koko. Yeah, there's no reason for me to have max speed on this Arceus Dark now that I look back at it. I feel like a complete idiot. So we're just gonna move on. we're just gonna pretend that this was optimized, and we're gonna move on. So next off, we have Spadef Bulky Runerigus with Protect and Leftovers, because this is essentially my best answer to trying to deal with Tapu Koko and the Alolan Raichu. I think Raichu does get access to Surf or Grass Knot, so I obviously have to be careful with that. But Protect plus Lefties keep this alive. Earthquake hits everything alongside a Rock Tomb for neutral or super effective damage. I thought about maybe putting Rock Blast over Rock Tomb, but I figured that dropping the speed or something would be very handy. And then Stealth Rocks for Stealth Rocks. We have Heavy Duty Boots, physically defensive Slowbro, to try and eat a hit from the Zarude, Ho-Oh, and Zygarde, along with the Mega Mawile, potentially being able to hit all three of those for super effective damage, while also being able to give me some type of momentum. We have Mega Lopunny, which now gets access to U-turn, which is really nice, as well as its benefit of getting close combat, because this means close combat is able to smack everything decently hard. Koko and Raichu do resist, but they don't want to necessarily take a close combat flat out unless they are really bulky. In Raichu's case, it doesn't get recovery, and then U-turn is able to gain me momentum. A Fake Out is nice to just kind of chip things down and revenge kill things. Plus, along with Retaliate, if I lose a Pokemon, I can bring in Lopunny. It gets the double boost from Retaliate, and I'm able to just absolutely smack something with enough speed to outspeed Tapu Koko. This time correctly, I might add. I may or may have not been completely gone during this tour, but that is besides the point. So yeah, we're going to ignore Arceus's speed investment. So next up, we have fully specially defensive Tangela. This was the one that I was kind of struggling on a little bit, because I didn't want this to potentially be used as setup fodder for Zygarde, but then it turns out that Grass Knot is actually able to break Zygarde's Substitute almost all the time, unless she's like max Spadef, max HP, which I really doubt she's going to be. So that was really handy. And then this also means that I can act as a backup check to the Electric Core between Tapu Koko and the Alolan Raichu. And the nice thing about that too is that with Toxic and Leech Seed, I'm able to wear a whole lot of her mons down. Knockoff is really nice in case she does bring Boots Ho, which I definitely do expect. Toxic can also poison the Ho-Oh, the Zygarde, most importantly, and even the Zarude if she is not jungle healing. And then getting rid of items is always really, really nice. And then the final one here, I was originally going to have Caparaja, but then I decided to change it to Comfey literally like 2 minutes before we started playing, because I was stuck between Kappa or Comfey. And I decided to just go ahead and go with Comfey, because I figured that this can potentially sweep late game if I'm able to get rid of the Mawile or the Ho-Oh, or just severely weak. Well, no, because Ho-Oh has regen. So if I'm able to get rid of Mawile, no, sorry, if I'm able to get rid of Ho-Oh and then weaken the Mawile, this can technically win after a Calm Mind or two, which is why I have so much special attack investment. The main reason I have plus Bedev Nature is just so I could potentially take a special hit from the Koko or the Alolan Raichu, and then, yeah, Synthesis for recovery, U-turn, because Ho-Oh and Mawile and even Koko are just such a free switch in to Comfy. If I predict them, then I can U-turn out against them. So let's jump into the battle here. Alright, so we got our first matchup here. Of course, if you guys are excited for this video, make sure to Judgement that YouTube algorithm. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our match here. So, of course, she did not bring the Rampardos or the Marshtomp. Those two mons were honestly never going to be coming, especially because I didn't have an electric type on my team to be able to abuse the electric terrain that she does have herself. So she did bring her top 6 mons, which are absolutely terrifying. Raichu and Koko are very, very scary if I lose my Runerigus. Zaru, depending on the set, could be a little bit annoying. Mega Mawile basically murders my defensive core, so I have to be very careful with that. Ho-Oh can also be a giant issue depending on the set, although I expect it to more than likely be Boots. And then Zygarde, I have no idea what it can run. Maybe like Bulky Coil, it could be Sub Coil, maybe like Glare, Dragon Dance, I have no idea, but Zygarde is also a bit of a nuisance. But looking at the lead matchups, I figured that my Lopunny was going to be my best lead just because I can go ahead and get my Mega off instantly, as she ends up leading off with the Mawile. Shouts out to her having One Piece nicknames. I definitely have to catch up with the Wano arc right now, but definitely want to do that. So Frankie here takes a fake out, as she unfortunately turns out to have the substitute, which is very, very annoying, because now I basically lose my Slowbro, and this is a little bit bad because I don't really have a good switch into Ho-Oh now, which is kind of scary, but I'm able to bring in my Lopunny here. Fake out is going to guarantee the fact that I can just click close combat and knock her out. Like, yeah, she might have been able to switch into Ho-Oh or the Tapu Koko or even the Alolan Raichu, but none of them really want to take a hit from my Lopunny, and I might have been able to go for the U-turn, considering that I had already shown her that I had U-turn, so she was probably banking on me, expecting me to go for an over prediction there, as she sacked off the Mawile. But I mean, Mawile got rid of my Slowbro, which opens up her Ho-Oh and her Zygarde a little bit more, as well as potentially this Rude, even though it is able to hit Slowbro for super effective damage. Slowbro, being physically defensive, can still eat hits from the Zarude regardless. So yeah, Mawile got a kill and went 1 for 1, which is not entirely the worst thing ever, as in comes the Zarude. Because she brought it in on my Lopunny, I'm expecting this to be Scarf, so I'll make a hard switch directly into my Comfy, expecting her to go for either the Power Whip or the Close Combat. As she does close combat, this allows me to U-turn out on the incoming Koko into my Runerigus, which is nice because now I can either get up my Stealth Rocks, go for a Rock Tomb, or potentially a Will-O-Wisp. And I figured that getting up rocks here is going to be better for me, because on the off chance that her Koko and Ho-Oh are not are not heavy duty boots, then I can get off damage on them. As I go for the Protect, she misses the Power Whip on my incoming Tangela, which doesn't necessarily matter too much, because as you'll see, I'm able to switch out and keep my full HP status here. As she decides to go for the U-turn into the Zygarde, I am able to thankfully get off the Toxic here, which is really nice, because now this means, unless this is like Rest Talk or just Rest in general, which is very unlikely because she is in the terrain, then I no longer really have to worry about Zygarde, as I'm able to get off a good chunk of damage with the Grass Stunt. I'm going to make a hard switch into my Arceus. Now keep this in mind, 1000 arrows right here only did 22% of damage to my Arceus. I am substitute Arceus, which means that this next turn I can more than likely sub up, be behind a sub, as this Zygarde gets knocked out by the Toxic, because as you see here, she goes for Toxic, she's worn down by Toxic, and now she's at 25%. She took about 25% the previous turn, so now my plays are to either go for Judgment or go for Recover, still end up with a sub. So I figured being at full HP behind a sub is way more beneficial. Unfortunately though, it turns out that the 1000 arrows was like a min-max damage roll, because I have 25% HP on my substitute. She did 22% earlier. So yeah, that was really unfortunate, and actually now that I think about it, that's where me not having to be max speed, if I had those EVs into my defense, I most likely would have ended up behind a substitute in this scenario. And this is really bad, because now in comes the Tapu Koko, and I really don't want to risk a speed tie. So I'm gonna switch out here into my Runerigus as she goes for the Play Rough. Unfortunately, she misses. I'm not sure how much that miss necessarily would have mattered. I mean, I could have protected the next turn and stayed a little bit healthier, but you'll see as the match goes on. So she does decide to go for the U-turn. As I Rock Tomb on the incoming Ho-Oh, I figured that this is really nice because now this next turn I can potentially go for another Rock Tomb as she decides to go for the Roost. And I kind of wish I actually did have Rock Blast or Rock Tomb, because I think that might have ultimately ended up doing a little bit more damage than what my Rock Tomb is doing here. And even though I get a crit, that still does nothing to Ho-Oh because it came in at full HP, man. Heavy Duty Boots is nasty on Ho, and I really want to use it in Ubers when it gets released. So I think we both switch out here. She brings his Rude as I bring in my Arceus. I don't want to stay in fearing the Power Whip or the close combat, and I make a really risky play into Runerigus. I didn't want to bring in Comfy because if I brought in Comfy, that basically gave her a free switch into the Tapu Koko, which with my Runerigus being toxic might have been a little bit bad if she predicted me correctly and hit me with the Play Rough, or if she was carrying more of a mixed set of Koko and went for the Grass Knots. So I end up staying in here, go for the Rock Tomb as I catch the incoming Tapu Koko. Obviously, I wish I had gone for the Earthquake there, but I was expecting the Ho-Oh to potentially come in. And speaking of Ho-Oh, unfortunately, it comes in on my Tangle, and I'm thinking, all right, I can go for Toxic here on Ho-Oh, maybe live a hit, or she's going to expect me to switch out and go for Toxic, so I can stay in Toxic Ho, and it's not going to be a problem. No, she turns out to be Sub-Roost Toxic, which is very frustrating. Because this thing could potentially just wreck my entire team if I predict incorrectly around it. So I bring in Runerigus, the best thing that I have to just try and hopefully end up with this not being behind a sub. And again, if I had Rock Blast here, that would have been so handy. So I Rock Tomb the incoming Zarude. I still have use for this Runerigus as I'm able to get the prediction correctly again on this Zarude on my incoming Comfy here. And now I can easily go for the U-turn because at this point I'm pretty sure that this Zarude is choiced. At least choice scarfed, 99% sure on that. And then I can U-turn out on the Koko into my Lopunny, knock out the Tapu Koko as in comes the Alolan Raichu, because at this point I don't really need my Lopunny because I'm certain Zarude is scarfed. I don't outspeed it, and then I only have close combat and retaliate to damage the Ho-Oh, which with this being more than likely very bulky, I can't potentially beat it 1v1. So I'm able to knock out the Koko, sack off the Lopunny to the Alolan Raichu, allow me to bring in my Tangela here, and I can go straight for the knockoff. Honestly, this was definitely my better play, and I wish I had actually not been minus attack. Was I minus attack? No, I might have been minus speed. Okay, so I was minus speed. Alright, my bad. But yeah, so because I'm minus speed on Tangela here, I'm able to do a really solid chunk of damage to the Alolan Raichu. Like, yeah, knocking off its Life Orb is a little bit bad because it's not taking residual damage, but I did 54% to it, which is absolutely phenomenal, and now it's nowhere near as scary of a threat as I bring in my Runerigus as he decides to go for the Protect, probably just trying to rack up the toxic damage on me. I said he instead of she, my bad. I'm still not used to, like, always facing female players because there's so many male players in Pokemon. But yeah, I lose Runerigus, down goes the Alolan Raichu, in comes the Zarude, and this is where things get a little bit lengthy and redundant. So at this point, I realize that I need to try and Toxic this Ho-Oh if I want to deal with it, as well as being able to try and outplay it with my Arceus Dark here with Substitute, because if Liv is able to poison my Arceus, I think I pretty much just lose this game. So I need to play around her potentially trying to Toxic me, and I need to find some way to stall out her Sacred Fires, which as you can see here, I've already wasted 5 out of 8 of them, which is really nice. As I then go for sub here on the incoming Zarude. I didn't check the calc at the time, and I honestly should have just gone straight for Judgment here, because Judgment at this range would have actually been able to finish off the Zarude at -1 Spadef. So I go for the recover as she close combats again. I bring in my Tangela, and I'm able to catch the incoming hole with the Toxic, which is absolutely phenomenal because at this point things are kind of shifted more easily into my favor, and now with this being on a timer, I'm going to be able to beat it a whole lot easier. Plus, she only has 1 Sacred Fire left. And I'm in a position of where I can definitely just keep subbing and recovering. And if I do that accordingly, eventually she's going to waste her last Sacred Fire. Now, if this had really come down to a PP stall war, if I did my math correctly, I would have ultimately ended up still outstalling the Ho-Oh. Although at that point it would have hit like 100 turns and it just would have been absolutely insane. And then, I mean, with this sequence of plays and her knowing that there's no real way that she can get out of this outside of literally just trying to constantly pivot in and out, in and out, in and out, and then just dragging on the game, that there's not real reason for her to do this, because I can still beat the Ho-Oh 1v1. Zarude, it just keeps taking chip damage every single time. Eventually, once Ho-Oh is gone, my Tangela can beat the Zarude as well. So we're able to win technically round 2 here of the BBL Speed Tour, and now let's hop into the semifinals basically. Okay, so we have our semifinals match here because it should have been 4 rounds, but because I gotta buy round 1, I only had to do 3 rounds. So yeah, this is semifinals. If I win this, we go on to finals, which would be pretty awesome for just a random speed tour. I decided to join, and we are facing Potatoes here, which has a pretty scary team. Literally the biggest threats on Potatoes' team are Mewtwo, which now gets access to Nasty Plot along with Unnerve. That thing is absolutely disgusting, and it's just so blatantly fast. It's really, really terrifying. And then Mega Deontay, its coverage and access to new moves is very scary as well. So I definitely have to be careful when I am facing those 2 mons. Hydreigon could be a little bit annoying. The Scizor could be a problem if it is Sword Dance, but as long as it doesn't get too many boosts, we should be able to deal with that. Moltres, if it does come, will definitely be boots, much like Ho-Oh in our first game. Ditto, Hitmontop, and Slowpoke, I'm really not too concerned about. Obviously, our opponent will not be bringing Slowpoke, so it's either going to be Ditto or Hitmontop as his last mon. And with that being said, let's jump into our build here. So, much like the mistake that I did with Tapu Koko, I thought, oh hey, I speed tie with Mewtwo again. May or may have not been entirely here this entire run. So yeah, I figured, yeah, I'll just run max speed on my Darkius and I speed tie with Mewtwo, worst comes to worst. No, I definitely could have put more investment into special attack or HP, but I did run a little bit of calcs with this spread. With these 3 moves here, Flamethrower, Judgement, and Flash Cannon, we basically hit everything for neutral or super effective damage, which is absolutely phenomenal because Flamethrower is able to just murder Scizor, which means Sword Dance isn't as big of an issue, and Flash Cannon absolutely annihilates Mega Deontay. Now, regular Deontay does live 1 Flash Cannon, but in return, it does not knock me out with the Moonblast if I'm at full HP. But if Mega Deontay does Mega, and it is Mega Deontay, then I pretty much OHKO it with Flash Cannon. So 252 to 208, those damage rolls didn't matter whatsoever. So then I put 48 in HP. Again, could have definitely added more into HP because all I really needed was like, yeah, 176. So I could have had a little bit more HP bulk in this, but again, is what it is. Really not that big of an issue considering that it's already been done. What am I doing? I don't know what's going on. All right, so yeah, next off we have Heavy Duty Boots Tornadus, which I didn't get the chance to use in game 1 because my opponent did have Alolan Raichu and Tapu Koko. So yeah, it was basically going to be doing nothing in those games. But this time around, we have Iron Tail to smack Mega Deontay, Heat Wave, murder Scizor, Air Slash for stab, and U-turn full momentum. Because of the Heavy Duty Boots, we are taking no type, Adventure Hazard damage, max special attack allows us to do some pretty good damage output, and then enough speed to outspeed his fastest mon outside of Mewtwo, which is Mega Deontay. We have Assault Vest Caporaja, which is essentially my only real answer to Mewtwo, and this acts as a defensive switch in to Hydreigon and Deontay. Now, Caporaja is not necessarily the most bulky mon around, but with Assault Vest, it is able to tank special hits. So I'm hoping that this will at least be able to knock out one of those 3 mons, or potentially just weaken most of them. Because if I'm able to weaken 2/3 of them or knock one of those 3 out, which I fully expect all 3 of them to come, that would be absolutely amazing. All 4 of these moves hit everything for neutral or super effective damage, which is super nice. Next off, we have a Mega Lopunny, which is able to outspeed the entirety of my opponent's team. I don't know why those 40 are missing. I'm pretty sure I had them during the actual match, but it's not that big of an issue right now. So U-turn full momentum, also able to outspeed the Mewtwo and potentially knock it out. Close Combat is able to smack everything. Even Mewtwo is not appreciating close combat, because from there I can just U-turn or potentially Facade, and if I close combat into a Moltres with Flame Body and I get burnt, that's where I have Facade to come in handy, and at that point I'm doing even more ridiculous damage to my opponent, which is going to be absolutely amazing. And then Fake Out is just there because of the priority and chip damage, which is always very handy. Next up, we have more or less mixed defensive Comfy here. I don't really know what these EVs do. I just wanted some defense, and the rest in Spadef. Toxic, I think, is for the Moltres or the Mewtwo, if I'm able to catch them on a switch in. And then U-turn, again, I can just U-turn out against the Moltres. I can U-turn out against the Scizor as well, which is very, very handy. And then Draining Kiss is also nice because I'm able to have some type of priority move. But fun fact, I actually did not have Triage, however you want to pronounce it, in this match. I ended up having Flaravel, and this kind of affects some plays in this game. If I remember them as I go through the game, then I'll mention like where I could have initially brought in Comfy if I had Triage. But yeah, I had Flaravel, and that was my fault, which does kind of suck, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. And then Brunerigus, again, just mixed offensive. This is able to hopefully burn the Scizor, allowing it to not sweep through my entire team. Rock Blast hits the Moltres. Earthquake is nice damage for a stab, and then Body Press pretty much smacks the Hydreigon. Yeah, I don't have Stealth Rocks on this squad, but again, I figured that the Moltres is going to be heavy duty boots, and outside of that, his team's not really weak to rocks anyway. So yeah, I figured rocks weren't that important. So let's hop into the battle. Alright, so we have our semifinals match here, and as expected, he did not bring the Slowpoke, but what I was a little surprised about was that he brought him on top over Ditto, and you're going to see that I completely overlooked him on top in this matchup. So looking at leads, I figured that he might expect me to lead with my Lopunny, so with that in mind, I decided to lead with my Tornadus, and turn one, he ends up leading off with the him on top. I'm thinking, alright, I'm going to be big brain, next level, Jimmy Neutron, Mind Blast prediction right here, right? He's not going to stay in. I could have Hurricane. I could also have Nasty Plot, and Nasty Plot live any hit and then go for a +2 hit on whatever comes in, correct? But I'm mainly thinking, alright, he's going to expect me to go for Hurricane. He's going to be fearing me just straight knocking him out. So I'm thinking he's going to switch into either the Scizor or the Deontay, or potentially Mewtwo if it's like a bulky Nasty Plot or like a bulky Calm Mind Mewtwo. So I'm thinking, alright, there's no way he stays in. I'm going to Iron Tail, he's going to bring a Deontay. Like, there's no way in this scenario, turn one, do I go for a potential Steel move. So I decided to go for Iron Tail, and he freaking stays in and goes for the triple axle, and you guys have no idea. Ooh, you guys have no... you have no idea how upset this made me. I was so heated. Like, why would you stay in? Why? You shouldn't. Oh my lord. If I had just gone for the air slash there, that would have been so good. Like, maybe I didn't knock it out in one hit, but still, getting off the damage would have been really amazing. And oh my Arceus, I'm just happy. I'm just so happy that my Tornadus ends up living the 3 triple axle kicks here. As I bring in my Comfy, he goes for the Bullet Punch. I think I go for Toxic, and then I end up missing, which is actually a blessing in disguise, because as I said, I just completely overlooked this hit on top. So I U-turn out on the incoming Scizor into my Brunerigus. I'm able to go for the Will-O-Wisp as he switches into his Rotom here. Not Rotom, sorry, his Hitmontop here, which I'm not sure why he didn't bring something else in. Like, he could have brought in the Moltres, or maybe he thought that I would predict that and go for a rock move, which actually would make sense if you brought in the Hitmontop, thinking that I would predict the Moltres to come in, which, to be fair, is not a bad play at all. I also could have gone for the Stealth Rocks here in this scenario. So yeah, the fact that I'm able to Will-O-Wisp with this Hitmontop is way more beneficial than me being able to Toxic it, because now that this Hitmontop is burnt, it's nowhere near as much of a nuisance as it initially was. Because if you look at my team, Fighting plus Ice coverage basically hits everything that I have. And yeah, he did have Bullet Punch for my Comfy, but now that it's burned, I don't even have to worry about Bullet Punch. Even though it didn't do that much damage earlier on, the fact that he Toxic me means that he can still kind of deal with me. So I U-turn out on the Scizor here after I kind of make a bit of a bad play there and try Toxic the Moltres. I really should have thought that he's not going to stay in. But I figured that if he's substitute, he might sub in this scenario, and then even if he is sub, I can still kind of deal with that. But I completely overlooked the fact that Scizor is basically a free switch into my Comfey. So this is really bad because now Scizor is able to not only get up one Swords Dance, it gets up a second Swords Dance. Even though I hit my Will-O-Wisp, it turns out that it's Lumberry. As I do tank the hit thanks to my Colbur Berry, I then miss my second Will-O-Wisp, and yeah, I do. At this point, I was like, well, that's basically game. As you can see here, I just say it's GG because I figured that I lost. Like, depending on what the Scizor is, it might be able to live a Flamethrower from my Arceus. And then if it lives a Flamethrower, if it's Bug Bite, I just basically lose. So I bring in Darkius, hoping that maybe I can knock him out with a Flamethrower. That's really my best bet. As he goes for the Bullet Punch. Now, keep this in mind. He does not have Technician anymore. He's he's Wandering Spirit, which is why this Bullet Punch didn't do as much damage as it more than likely would have done. And then it turns out that I'm actually able to knock him out. And as you can see here, he says he should have scouted for me having Flamethrower, but he thought that it was basically GG. And I was like, yeah, this is basically the mind games aspect of Pokemon. Like, I was like, hey, I'm just going to be like GG. Because, again, like, I literally thought it was a good game, but at the same time, I'm thinking, well, if I can live a Bullet Punch and I knock him out, then I might maybe have a chance, or at least I'm not going to get 6-0'd. So, yeah, that was really, really good for me, as I'm able to knock out the Scizor. This gives me a bit of a chance to still win this game. As in comes the Mega Deontay. At this point, I'm just praying and hoping he does not stay in his base form, and thankfully he doesn't, because I'm able to OHKO him with the Flash Cannon, which I guarantee you he was not expecting. Now, even if he had scattered out for me having Flash Cannon, Hitmontop still would have taken the Flash Cannon damage and the burn damage. Hydreigon would have taken the Flash Cannon damage, which still would have done a decent little bit. And if he brought in the Moltres, it would have taken that, and then from there I could have just gone for the Judgment. And if it had been Moltres against Arceus or Darkius here, I still would have Judgmented most likely, because if you look at my team, I don't really have a good switch in the Moltres. So I would have just gone straight for a Judgment against the Moltres if he had brought it in, expecting me to have potentially Flash Cannon or the Earth Power. And then obviously you're not going to bring in a Mewtwo on a Darkius. So yeah, I don't know if him not kind of fully thinking that playthrough necessarily mattered too much. But down goes the Mega Deontay and the Scizor, as in comes the Hitmontop. I was about to call it Rotom again. I don't know why I want to call this Hitmontop Rotom, if any of you guys have an explanation. So yeah, I end up going for the Synthesis here, just because keeping this healthy means I can always just keep this Hitmontop and the Hydreigon in check. As I believe I went for U-turn, it turns out that I'm faster than the Moltres, which means it's just really bulky. As it catches my Tornadus, I'm able to bring in my Kappa on the Hydreigon. I went for the Rock Blast, thinking that he would switch out, not expecting me to be knocked out by one hit, but it turns out that he has the Focus Blast. So this next turn, I'm like, all right, he might just go for it again, or he may have the Flamethrower, so I'm just going to play rough. If he stays in, that would be absolutely phenomenal. If he knocks me out, that's not the worst thing ever, because then I just bring in my Lopunny. If I get Flame Body on the close combat from the Moltres, I just click Facade and basically knock something else out the following turn. But he stays in, goes for the Roost, and I'm able to just obliterate him with the Play Rough. That crit did not matter whatsoever. I ran the calc. I always knocked him out regardless of what his EV spread was. So in comes the Mewtwo. This is fine with me, because once he knocks out my Caparaja, I just bring in my Lopunny and I basically U-turn for free, or I get a free Fake Out plus U-turn from there. So he decides to go for Nasty Plot because he knows he can live any one hit, but Heavy Slam does so much damage to the point where even if he knocks me out, it's really not that big of a problem, because I can just bring in Lopunny. I'm definitely faster than this. Fake Out just guarantees the knockout with U-turn, and at this point the match is kind of over. Like, I don't want to jump the gun here, but there's not really much that he can do. Yeah, he does have the Moltres, which is decently bulky, but between my Lopunny, my Arceus, and me eventually being able to talk to this because he does not have the substitute, I'm really not too concerned about anything that he's going to want to do against me. So we just do some switching out here, and yeah, there's not really much for me to say here. So Judgment here, Judgment is able to knock this out, and then him on top comes in, and yeah, that's basically the game. So even though I wasn't able to talk to the Moltres, I was still able to pressure it there near the end game. So we're able to make it to the finals of the Speed Tour, and hopefully we can win it all. So yeah, let's jump into that matchup. Alright, so here we are in the finals of the BBL Speed Tour that happened on Friday a few days ago. So we are facing Silver Smasher 96, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit surprised to make it here to the finals. I really didn't think I had the best draft ever, but Arceus is absolutely just disgusting. So yeah, Arceus is an insane Pokemon in Draft League and just Ubers in general, which is still baffling to me that it's not going to be in 8th gen Ubers or 8th gen Uber Draft League. So yeah, it's kind of cool. But let's take a look at our matchup here. So we are facing Xerneas, Libero, Cinderace, and a Mega Medicham. That core is absolutely terrifying. Xerneas in itself is already one of the absolute best Ubers in Draft League. Libero Cinderace has Stab in all of its moves, which is very scary, and the Mega Medicham is the Mega that I initially really wanted, but Smasher here ended up getting it, which is why I got Megalop. So yeah, we faced Mega Mawile round 2 technically, and now we're facing Mega Medicham, which is just really scary because much like Mega Mawile, Mega Medi can just kind of come in and pretty much murder my defensive mons. Like, yeah, we have Slowbro, but Thunder Punch still absolutely smacks Mega Medi. And yeah, Crobat could be a little bit annoying because of its speed. Araquanid with webs is something I'm very scared of. Steelix, I do more or less kind of expect to come to this game because that is his only stealth rocker. Mandibuzz could definitely come to this game as well because physically defensive heavy duty boots is able to just eat hits from Mega Lopunny. And then Electrode, I'm not gonna lie, Electrode did actually really scare me a little bit in this matchup because it's faster than my entire team and it's his best answer to my Tornadus. So a part of me knew that if he does bring Electrode, I need to watch out for it, and I really did not exclude the Electrode when it came to building to this match. So as you can see here, once again, my stupid self is thinking, oh hey, I can go max speed Arceus Dark and speed tie with the Crobat, right? Oh my lord, I was not thinking straight. But yeah, I'm thinking, oh, I'm max speed because I speed tie with Crobat if it comes to it. But I figured that Calm Mind this matchup would actually be really good because Judgment plus Sludge Bomb, as you can see from his draft, hits everything for neutral or super effective damage. More importantly though, Sludge Bomb smacks the Xerneas, which is what I really wanted. And then after one Calm Mind from full HP, I'm able to live a max special attack Moonblast and beat the Xerneas 1v1. And then if I get 2 Calm Minds up, then it's basically over at that point because unless he has a Toxic Mandibuzz at full HP, there's nothing that he can do, although he could have Toxic on like Electrode or the Crobat as well. But what I'm saying is that Fat Arceus Dark in this matchup made a whole lot more sense than just purely offensive Arceus Dark because he did have good answers to Arceus and Xerneas, the Mandibuzz, and just speedy Toxic Crobat if he were to bring the Crobat and the Mandibuzz with Toxic. So yeah, I figured that Calm Mind, Recover, Judgment, and Sludge Bomb basically was my best option in this matchup. Next off, we do have the obligatory Mega Lopunny here. Fake Out for priority damage, U-turn for momentum, close combat to be able to do as much damage as possible. And finally off, we have Retaliate. I thought I had Facade on this over Retaliate, but I guess Retaliate is kind of nice just because, again, if I lose a Pokemon, I bring this in. Mandibuzz switching in on the Retaliate is taking double the damage than an initial Retaliate, and I think double damage Retaliate into close combat might be able to kill it after a little bit of chip damage. So yeah, other options could have been like Toxic potentially to try and Toxic the Mandibuzz. I think I did consider Power Up Punch as well, but I figure Retaliate might not be the worst thing ever because I am facing Mega Medicham. Much like game number 1, I'm thinking Mega Medicham is just going to come in, get a kill, and then from there I bring in Mega Lopunny, retaliate for double damage, and then go from there. We have Tornadus here again with heavy duty boots, enough speed to outspeed the Cinderace, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, enough speed for Cinderace. And then Sludge Bomb hits the Xerneas for super effective damage, Heat Wave for the Steelix, Air Slash for stab because I'm not about to run Hurricane and then cry about when I miss Hurricane and then lose because of it. At least Air Slash does have a chance to flinch. And this is nice for Defog because I'm very scared of him bringing Sticky Webs. I haven't brought Defog on my Comfey or Tornadus in my previous 2 games, so I thought he might keep an eye out for that and bring Sticky Webs. Otherwise, I 100% would have brought a Nasty Plot because at +2, he has nothing to deal with Tornadus, which would have been absolutely amazing. But yeah, again, just really fearing Defog. Next up, we have a very physically defensive Runerigus. Honestly, I wish I didn't have these attack EVs. I could have definitely put this into Spadef potentially, but it's really not that big of an issue as I have a very interesting spread in the sense that I always live 1 Ice Punch, which procs my Citrus Berry, then giving the Mega Medicham Wandering Spirit, so then I live another Ice Punch from there, and then I either force him out, I get up rocks, I get a burn on the Medicham or something that's coming in, or I get off a Rock Tomb on whatever's coming in, and then I take advantage of something from there. So the hope is to just try to get up rocks and then maybe deal with the Medicham once and then just kind of go from there. So yeah, these attack investments might have been better in like Spadef. I really didn't need max Fizdef, honestly. So next up we have Assault Vest Caparaja once again. It was able to come in handy in our semifinals match, and this time around I needed to deal with the Xerneas. Now Xerneas does not get access to Geomancy, which if it did, it would be banned 100% because that is absolutely broken. Just run Power Geomancy and you win every single match you have with it. But the nice thing about Assault Vest is that I can kind of keep this as a consistent switch into the Xerneas, and then between all 4 of these moves, everything takes super effective or neutral damage, which is absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, Caparaja is a really good switch in to the Xerneas if it really comes down to it. Like Focus Blast still kind of hits, but I mean it's Focus Blast, so he's got to hit it in the first place. So yeah, hopefully he doesn't, and then we can kind of go from there. If it is Calm Mind Focus Blast, that's actually very scary. So yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But our next mon here and our last mon is a physically defensive Slowbro. I learned from my match against Liv that I shouldn't have had boots on Slowbro. I should have had Rocky Helmet because my plan was always to switch in Slowbro on the Mega Mawile. So yeah, if I had Rocky Helmet there, I could have got off some initial chip damage, which I guess really didn't matter because of how the game played out. But you get what I mean. Like, I should have had Rocky Helmet as opposed to boots, and this time I did learn my lesson. So we have Rocky Helmet here to chip down the Mega Medicham and put it into ranges of where we can revenge kill it with our 3 offensive mons in Tornadus, Lopunny, and Darkius. Thunder Wave is going to be really amazing if I can just paralyze his speedy mons in the Xerneas, Cinderace, Mega Medi, and Crobat. Scald for stab, Psyshock hits the Araquanid for a little bit more damage, and then Teleport for momentum. So let's hop into the finals here, and hopefully we can win. So yeah. Alright, so I realized that I might have just done the builder for this finals match in this aspect ratio, which I'm really sorry for. I would redo it again, but it's really late, and I hope you guys don't mind. Love y'all. I hope y'all enjoy. Please don't be upset. Yeah, so we have the finals here for the BBL Speed Tour, and he did end up bringing 5 of the 6 mons that I had initially expected. I was really expecting him to bring a Araquanid because I didn't bring any type of removal in my first 2 games, and no Crobat is honestly really nice because now I don't have to worry about it outspeeding everything on my team besides my Lopunny. So going into the matchup, Xerneas, giant problem. Libero, Cinderace, a giant problem if I lose my Slowbro. Like, Libero U-turn does like 30% min to my Slowbro, which is where Rocky Helmet also did come in handy. If I forgot to mention that in the team builder aspect. Mega Medi murders me if I lose Slowbro or my Runerigus, so I gotta be careful with that. Mandibuzz, I really don't know what set it could be. I mean, it's gonna be fat, but I don't know what type of other moves outside of Roost it could be running. Steelix, probably rocks, 3 moves and then Electrode. I have no idea what this Electrode is going to be. I'm hoping that it's Aftermath as opposed to Static, because if it is Static, that could be really, really annoying. So, yeah, with that being said, I don't quite remember what I led with, if I'm being honest. I want to say I led with my Lopunny or Tornadus, right? Yeah, okay, so I did lead Lopunny. I knew it was one of those two. So he ends up leading off with the Steelix here, and I'm going to go straight for the Fake Out, as I don't even do enough damage to where I break the Sturdy, and then U-Turn also doesn't do enough damage to break the Sturdy, which doesn't really matter too much. As he gets up his rocks here, I'm going to go for Scald. I guess in hindsight, I might have been able to go for the Teleport here, but with me having Runerigus, I really wasn't too concerned about this Electrode, as he ends up going for the Toxic. Unfortunately, does end up missing, but he makes an excellent play here this following turn. Knows or expects me to not go for the Earthquake, thinking that he would switch out. As I do get on my rocks, he is able to hit the Toxic here. I'm not sure if that first miss necessarily matters too much, as I go for the Will-O-Wisp and I end up burning the incoming Mandibuzz. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have done this play, because burning Mandibuzz is a little bit annoying. Like, Thunder Waving it might have also been good, but I guess burning it is not too bad, because I'm still able to get some type of residual damage on it, as I Sludge Bomb the Electrode on the taunt, because I expected him to not go straight for the electric move there. He goes for the Thunderbolt on my Rune Switch. As we both switch out here, he brings a Mandibuzz. I bring in my Slowbro. I figured that I should just try and be aggressive here and go for Scald. Force him to try and go for the Roost, because if this game goes super long, then I might as well just try and force him to waste his Roost, basically. So I teleport here on his U-turn. As in comes Xerneas, I'm able to bring in my Copperajah. I Earthquake, expecting the incoming Steelix, which is really nice because, which is really nice. I don't know if alright, my bad. So, I Earthquake expecting the incoming Steelix, which I didn't expect him to bring in Mandibuzz because it's at 53%, so if I went for Heavy Slam there, the Mandibuzz really wouldn't have been in a good scenario. So Earthquake, I figured, was the better play here, as I'm able to do a solid bit of damage to the Steelix. This is nice because now I can switch into my Slowbro here, chip him down with the Gyro Ball, which I thought he would either go for Earthquake or a switch here, so getting off damage on Steelix is nice as I teleport into Lop on the Mandibuzz. I then go for the Fake Out here on the Electrode, and this is the turn that I'm like, alright, if I can get rid of this Electrode, he pretty much has no good answer to my Tornadus. Like, look at his team. Nothing that he has is gonna appreciate switching into consistent Air Slashes or an Air Slash into Heat Wave in Steelix's case. So I'm thinking, alright, I can risk him hopefully being Aftermath and not Static and knock him out here with my Mega Lopunny, because even if he's faster than me, I know for a fact I live any one hit, just because Electrode is not that strong. We do have a little bit of HP investment as well. So I decide to risk it here, and I stay in and I go for the U-turn. I don't get paralyzed by the Thunderbolt. As I go for the U-turn, I knock him out, and then he gets the Static, and oh, I was I mean, it was bound to happen. It's like, it's a 30% chance. But the fact that he paralyzes my Lopunny in this match is extremely bad. Because if this Xerneas is not scarfed, then my Lopunny outsped the entirety of his team. The Mandibuzz is weakened, which means it doesn't switch in. Cinderace isn't switching in. Steelix isn't switching in. Medicham isn't switching in. And obviously Xerneas isn't switching in. Even if Xerneas was scarfed guaranteed, I can still pressure 4/5 of his team at this point. But the fact that he gets a Static here is just really bad, and basically makes my Lopunny useless, which it really sucks. So I Air Slash here on the Cinderace. He Powerballs my Tornadus as I bring in my Slowbro, and I'm hoping that from here I can just teleport out and gain some type of momentum. But then he busts out the Electro Ball, which I did not see coming at all. So that was really good prep on Smasher's end here, and I honestly thought that he was just gonna knock me out, but Slowbro is too fat, and I'm able to live gain back my HP with Regenerator, switch in Arceus Dark, and this is a pretty nice scenario for me because he doesn't know what I'm running on this Arceus, so he probably doesn't want to risk bringing in the Mandibuzz on a Judgment, or he doesn't want to bring in Xerneas on a Judgment if I do predict him to switch out. I have run sub Arceus before in my other matchup, so he might expect me to sub here, or he might expect me to be running some type of coverage move like in my semifinals match. So I figured that going straight for the Judgment here was my best play, because regardless of whether or not he switched into the Xerneas or the Mandibuzz, getting off damage on both of those is going to be very, very handy for me in the long run of this battle, and I am able to knock out the Cinderace, which is amazing because this thing genuinely would have been a problem if it was still on the field. As in comes the Xerneas, the fact that he brought it in directly on my Arceus has me a little bit suspicious, so I switch into my Caparaja as it goes for the Moonblast. I ended up calculating the damage from that Moonblast, and there's a chance that he could be running max special attack, so I go for the Heavy Slam this turn as I catch the incoming Mandibuzz, thinking that he would expect me to Earthquake, and unfortunately Heavy Slam is not quite enough to knock out the Mandibuzz, so he's gonna Roost here. And as I mentioned earlier, I figured that maybe I can just kind of force him to start wasting all of his Roost, because it seems like I'm gonna have to play the long game here, and the sooner that Mandibuzz runs out of Roost, the better. So as you can see here, he's already used 6 out of 10 Roost, and then I missed my play rough because I didn't want to waste all the PP on my Heavy Slam, which I guess in hindsight was a bit of a dumb play on my end, because now I don't want to stay in and risk him having the foul play. So I bring in my Tornadus as it U-turns out into the Xerneas, which I can't live any one hit with my Tornadus. So my only switch in to this Xerneas, which I still think is Choice Scarfed, is my Caparaja. And at this point, Moonblast along with Stealth Rocks is severely starting to wear me down. So I need to be very, very careful on how I play my Caparaja alongside this Xerneas. So I'm able to Earthquake, catch the Steelix, which is amazing because I was very, very close to going for the Heavy Slam there. But the more I chip down the Steelix, the better it's going to be for me, as I bring in my Darkies thinking that he's going to go for the Earthquake, or yeah, the Earthquake himself, as he makes an excellent double switch here into the Mega Medicham. Maybe he thought I would bring in Runerigus, or he did expect me to bring in my Arceus Dark, and I don't think Arceus really gets one move that can just specifically knock out Mega Medicham. Like, yeah, I have Judgment, although off the top of my head, I don't really know if I can one-shot it. And again, I'm not max special attack anyway, so I probably wouldn't have risked it. So I switch into my Runerigus here, as I then switch out into my Slowbro, which in hindsight, this was a really dumb play on my end. I think I was expecting him to try and bring in Mandibuzz, not wanting to leave in Medicham. So by bringing in Slowbro, I could regain back HP, switch out into potentially Tornadus, I guess, or my Darkius, and have Slowbro at above 60-ish%. So yeah, that was a little bit dumb on my end. Like, yeah, I do get Rocky Helmet damage off on the Medicham, but that doesn't really end up mattering in the long run here. So that was a bit of a dumb play on my end, although I do get a free switch into my Tornadus, and because the Electrode is gone, as I mentioned earlier, he really does not have a good switch in to my Tornadus. So that misplay actually does kind of help me out a little bit here, as I'm able to knock out the Mega Medicham here. In comes the Xerneas. At this range, I can maybe live a Moonblast on a roll, but it's really not in my favor, so I'm able to sack off my Mega Lopunny here, allow me to bring in my Caparaja, and much like earlier, it's a prediction game on whether or not I want to go for Heavy Slam or I want to go for the Earthquake, and I believe I do Heavy Slam here. As I catch the incoming Mandibuzz, I'm able to just consistently pressure this Mandibuzz, forcing it to waste its Roost. It's down to 9. As I go for the Air Slash, he ends up going for the Toxic, which honestly is not that bad because I can Air Slash again and I'm able to get the flinch, which, I mean, I've gone for 4 Air Slashes at this point. So eventually, if I kept Air Slashing, Air Slashing, and Air Slashing, I would have eventually got the flinch regardless. So this is the nice benefit of Air Slash over Hurricane, because if I kept trying to spam Hurricane here, I more than likely would have missed most of them. And by Air Slashing, even though I am Toxic, it's not really that big of an issue. The only problem in this scenario is that if I'm not at 100% HP, I don't live a Moonblast from the Zinnia. So as long as I don't let my Tornadus get entirely too low, then I should be fine in this scenario. So I get the Air Slash off. As I Air Slash miss on the incoming Steelix, that doesn't matter whatsoever because I can Heat Wave here, knock it out as he is forced back into the Zinnia, so which is fine by me because at this point I don't need my Runerigus or my Darkius potentially. So I decided to just sack off Runerigus if I'm not mistaken, as he makes a nice double switch into the Mana Bus. This is really a really smart play on his end because now he's able to get off the Roost, which is honestly a little bit annoying, but it's also not that big of an issue because I can bring in my Arceus Dark. Now, even though I know that he has Toxic, I can just Calm Mind up once or twice, do enough damage to where I'm pressuring this Mandibuzz to force itself to Roost, or wearing it down to the point where I can bring in my Tornadus to eventually beat it 1v1. So I get off 2 Calm Minds, I hit the second Sludge Bomb, knock it out, and at this point, the match is basically over. Like, there's not really much he can do to me. Yeah, he knocks me out here, but I can bring in Tornadus, switch out into Runerigus. The only reason I wanted to do this was to confirm that I could live 1 Moonblast from full HP, and we're able to win the BBO Speed Tour. So yeah, that was definitely a lot of fun. As I mentioned, it had been like almost 2 years probably since I've done a speed tour in one day, and being able to win it all was very exciting. Honestly, I feel like the team I got was just absolutely insane. I don't know if me facing those 2 teams that had access to T-Spikes would have necessarily mattered too much, but I definitely gained a new respect for Comfey, Runerigus, and Caporaja. Definitely Mons I wouldn't mind trying out in an actual Ubers league potentially. So yeah, little hint, wink there for those of you who are excited for future Draft League content. So I wasn't expecting this to be an hour long, I apologize, but if you sat through this whole thing, please let me know. Make sure to Judgement that YouTube algorithm, leave a comment about your favorite Uber, and leave a like as well. And with that being said, I will see you all very soon with some Crown Tundra DLC content. So thank you all for watching. Later, everybody.
My brain and heart are both tied in the knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion. But when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears, or hoping. I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, and hoping. For real.